Okay then. This is the start of my Thing retrospective. The first film was the 1951 Howard Hawks film, The Thing That Came from Another World. Here it is in all its glory. Not the whole film. This is just the trailer, and then I'll get into story, special effects, significance, all that type of fun stuff after the cut. But first, the trailer. Which
The Thing from Another World. This is the spot where it was first seen, and these are the first people who saw the thing. How did it get here? Where did it come from? What is it?
That thing's alive, sir. I saw it. I shot at it. I hit it. I know it. Nothing happened. It just kept coming at me, making a noise like a cat mewing. Captain, it was awful. If you could have seen those hands and those eyes. Captain, you've got to do something about it. You've got...
Is it human or inhuman? Earthly or unearthly? Baffling questions, astounding questions that not even the world's greatest scientific minds can answer.
Gentlemen, do you realize what we've found? A being from another world, as different from us as one pole from the other. If we can only communicate with it.
See? What happened, Doctor?
In the greenhouse, I was working. I couldn't see.
Yeah.
Then a blast of cold air, and I heard Olson scream.
Come here. Get in the corner. Now hold this in front of you. Stay by the light switch.
1.9. Needles hit the top.
Okay then, so a little bit of history about this film before I get started. I first saw this film when I was, I want to say, 4 years old. I actually saw this movie before I saw The Thing on TNT, because TNT used to be really big about showing westerns and old monster movies and stuff in the middle of the day. And one day I basically stayed home because I was sick with the chicken pox, and I watched TNT and TBS all day long. And one of the films was The Thing. Now, I thought this was The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing, but it wasn't. It was, in fact, 1951's The Thing. And this film really... the reason I knew about John Carpenter's was because my dad had that on VHS, but I hadn't seen it yet. I knew it was there. So basically, I saw this film first, and it's your typical monster film, but it does have the elements of what The Thing is about, and we'll get into that after the cut. We'll talk about, you know, what the plot is. So, here we go. The Thing That Came from Another World came out in 1951. It was directed by Howard Hawks. Howard Hawks was a famous director who did I Was a Male War Bride. Like, he was a 1940s, 1950s, like, studio director. I.e., he was on the payroll to make films, you know, that the studio that weren't like comedies and westerns and that type of thing. Howard Hawks was actually a pretty good director, though. He honed his craft, if you will. So basically, this film was made was based off of a book called Who Goes There. I forget who it's by. Here, let me look it up real quick. Who Goes There? Who Goes There? It was written by John W. Campbell. Pen under the pen name Don A. Stewart, and it appeared in 1938's Astounding Science Fiction. So there you go. It's an old as fuck concept, but how it was done in this film is quite interesting. The film is set in the Arctic. not Antarctica. In the original book, it was set in Antarctica, so there you go. So actually, John Carpenter, as I said, was the one who was the closest to the actual book. But I digress. So it's set in the Arctic at a research station, and basically they find a crashed flying saucer. Some researchers at the research station find the crashed flying saucer, and they attempt to unthaw it using thermite charges. Unfortunately, that doesn't work, and they blow up the flying saucer. Nearby to where the flying saucer crashed, they find a radioactive body encased in ice. And they take that back to the base, and yeah, you can see shit's about to get kind of weird. Essentially, the guy in command of the base is like, don't unthaw it, just let it stay in the ice. But someone makes a serious critical mistake. When they're told to don't unthaw it, they cover it up with a blanket. Unfortunately, this was an electric blanket that was left on, so the creature is unthawed, and then it goes on a rampage. It is attacked by the wolves that are at the research station, and one of them takes off its arm, and it manages to escape out into the Arctic wilds, if you will. So at that point, shit begins to get a little weird, because at this point you see that this is your atypical monster film, okay? Your atypical monster film. There's a scientist who believes that the thing is intelligent. They discover that the blood from one of the dogs, the thing's arm that fell off, ingested some of the blood from one of the dogs and begins to sprout bulbs. They look at the tissue underneath a microscope, and they discover that the thing has plant-like characteristics. But it needs blood in order to reproduce. So the doctor thinks this creature is intelligent. We could learn so much from it. They later come back later on, and they discover that the dogs have been killed and drained of blood. They also find out later on in the film that not only that the creature that not only has the professor disregarded the commander's decree that the creature needs to be destroyed and not to do anything involving it, that he's secretly been growing these buds in the greenhouse. Well, the guy finds out, and he gets pissed, and he gives the professor a stern talking to, and puts two of his other dudes, two other scientists who don't agree with the professor, to guard the buds growing in the greenhouse. They're attacked. One of the dudes is drained completely of blood, and the thing basically fucks up the other guy. They then turn off the lights, and the thing is inside of the base. They turn off the lights, they light it on fire, it runs outside, and puts itself out by going out into the Arctic blizzard or whatever. Essentially, this film has your typical 1950s tropes. Science wins, all that stuff, and blah, 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 yakety smackety. The interesting thing about the end of this film is that the character says something very unique. He says, tell the world, tell this to everybody, wherever they are. Watch the skies everywhere. Keep looking. Keep watching the skies. So, I mean, the film is your typical 1950s monster film. It's unique because, it's utterly unique. It's funny how they could take what is such an awesome story and turn it into the main villain, the thing, and the secondary villain, which is the scientist, into these caricatures of themselves. Which I'll get into that once we get to the second film of this trilogy of reviews. So, we'll get into the music and the special effects after the cut. Okay then, so the music. It's your typical studio canned music from a 1950s studio. It's not really all that interesting. I mean, this is no Day the Earth Stood Still, let me put it that way. Or King Kong, or Gojira, which would come out 3 years after this in Japan. So, I mean, it's bleh. The music is bleh. It gets the job done, nothing too special. So that was a quick review of the music. We'll get to the significance of this film after. You notice I didn't say anything about the special effects. They aren't all that impressive for even a film of the 1950s. You have to remember, at this point, we were seeing films from the Ray Harryhausen films, which were like stop-motion animatronics, which were shit all over the guy in a rubber suit. Unfortunately, in this film, it was just a guy in a rubber suit. And not in a good way. It was clearly just a dude in a rubber suit. So, I didn't speak too heavily about the special effects. Next, we'll make up with that with the 2011 movie, the prequel to 1982's John Carpenter's The Thing, 2011's The Thing.